should have known better when they came into town. Every sign pointed to what could happen there. Every indication told them to leave now. The wise guys in the bar, the preacher's warning, and the sheriff who made hate a way of life. Go, get out of town. We don't want your kind here. But they stayed. They stayed, and it became too late to leave. Too late as the clock approached midnight. Midnight. Now the book from the co-author of Night of the Living Dead comes to life on the screen. Don't miss John Russo's Midnight.
There it is, 1982. John Russo released his, to me, his masterpiece. The best Russo film, in my opinion. And I highly recommend everybody check it out. It's Midnight, 1982. And it's based off the novel that Russo wrote in 1980. Starring, I mean, it's got, as you guys saw, Lawrence Tierney. Most people remember from Reservoir Dogs. John Amplas has a role in this, as well as Greg Besnak. If you guys remember him from Knight Riders as the motorcycle guy, you can't miss the mustache. Effects done by Tom Savini. A lot of good about Midnight. Is it perfect? No. Is it great? I wouldn't say it's a great film, but I think it's a fun slasher film from that early 80s period. It's got some occult aspects to it. It's fun. It's kind of cool seeing John Amplas kind of play a psychotic, that's not, Martin, a quiet, reserved type, but just kind of trying to play like a psychotic serial killer type of character.
Don't you make any foolish moves. Keep your hands visible.
You reach for anything inside that bag, and I won't wait to see what you're reaching for. I'll just shoot.
Maybe we ought to drag them out in the woods one at a time. Question them separately.
Good idea.
What'd you do with my daughter?
Well, she might be right in front of you.
So, in my opinion, Midnight is John Russo's best film. Say what you want about John Russo, and like we talked about this, me and John talked about this, a few weeks back on the stream, and kind of went back and forth of John Russo's importance to Night of the Living Dead and just what his career became, and I just stand in awe that the guy is still working to this day. Like he's just prolific, if nothing else. In terms of his writing, his stories, his novels, his filmmaking. And that's the thing about, Midnight made a ton of fucking money. He didn't see very much of it because he made a bad deal, I think, with Vidmark, I think was the company that put this out when it came out, and sold a shitload of VHS tapes of this back in the day. I think the story is, I think the total budget on this was, I want to say $60,000. I think he ended up selling it to Vidmark for 70 or 80, something like that. So he made some money off of it to pay everybody back and everything. But it ended up selling like almost $1 million in copies at video stores and stuff. That's the story that he tells, and that's the thing too. On this release, this is a Severin release. You can find this on Severin. They usually have it on sale when they have their sales. It's usually, I think I bought this for like $8 or something like that. But there's some really good special features on here. One of them is an interview with John Russo. I just watched again here recently, and pretty much the entire interview is, yeah, that sucked, and here's why. And he kind of goes into detail about like, they wanted us, we were going to shoot it on 16 millimeter, but they wanted us to shoot it on 35. So when we shot it on 35, it cost more money, so we got a bigger budget and blah blah. And it didn't work because of this, because when you shoot it on 35, and he goes into like the detail of like, oh well, yeah, that sucked, and this is why. But there's great stories on this, and that's pretty much, there's an interview, the bonus video is an interview with John Russo, there's an interview with John Amplas, where Amplas is talking about, like, oh yeah, I was just kind of, Amplas is not the biggest fan of his performance in Midnight, I'll just say that. Savini has an interview on this, where Savini's pretty much like, yeah, it was just kind of a, a favor, I guess, is because I think the name of the thing is Small Favors. Yeah, it was just a small favor. Yeah, he worked for a little bit of money and just to help John Russo out because they were friends. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to like about this. There's elements of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre in this, and kind of like the backwoods. It's like a backwoods occult film. It's just out there. You got to see it though. But it is a Pittsburgh film. There were a lot of George's regulars that worked on this film. I know John Rice worked behind the scenes on this. I'm trying to think of who all. Paul McCullough, who everybody knows is my favorite musician. But he did the soundtrack on this. There's a lot of Romero connections in there. And it's a Pittsburgh film, shot around that same time period as like, Dawn and Night Riders, Creepshow. And it's just fun. There's good effects in it because it's Tom Savini, so there's the gunshots and some of the stuff looks really, really good. But it's a fun movie. And I would suggest, if I were saying like check out any John Russo film of his entire filmography, Midnight would be the one that I would suggest everyone check out. It's John Russo's best in my opinion.